Well, hello, hello. Somebody coming in the door. Hi, guys. And the bird says hello. As soon as I get online, people start coming in. That's great. Nice to see you all. Hey, Cody's thing. It's like we're being glitchy here. Hi, redfish, bluefish. Nice to see you. Got some folks playing with the bird out here. I'm on an online chat.
Oh, cool.
You know, I do this every Sunday afternoon on Facebook. We do an online chat on Facebook on Sunday afternoons at 2:00. So you may wind up being online.
FBI don't know where we are.
Well, there you go. I don't think they listen. They don't pay attention to fish. Well, good to see you all. Fish Rich, hi. Thank you. Cody-san, let's see. Let's see if I can. The mouse is throwing the screen up for some reason. I'm not sure what's happening. Chewy is sort of here. You, me too. About a fish. Hello? Yeah. Hello? Yes, it is. No, I don't have anything. The only big tank I've got right now is a 450. That's with the stand and the hood, the canopy, and the sump. It's 2,000. It's. I'm sorry. Okay.
Pick up quite a few fish, so we're looking for a larger tank. I have a 55 gallon now, but my wife just picked up 18 cichlids for $80 yesterday. So.
Well, I got the tank for you if you're ready for it. Come look at it. Come look at it.
One day I will. I know how that works. Once I look at it, I want to buy it. Trust me.
Well, that's good. That's good. All right. You bet.
Have a good day, sir.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Well, that was interesting. Texas Fish just picked up some sand from a local creek. Plan to wash it well and use it to capture. You don't need to wash it too well. You don't want to boil it. I mean, you want to keep the bacteria and life that's already in it. Bring that into your system. So long as it's a healthy creek, it's going to be healthy sand. Don't worry about bringing pathogens in unless you know there's a problem. What you can do if you want is set it up in a tank for a week or two, see how it does. But generally, I find with things like that, if you simply rinse it in tank water and then put it in the tank, you won't create dead bacteria. In other words, you won't be killing all of the life that's in it, which you really don't want to do. So, consider that. It's certainly worth the effort doing it. I'm afraid to touch my mouse at this point because I've touched it twice and it's knocked me offline, and I'm not sure I know why. Maybe I'll just leave it alone. I've got another monitor open so I can see your comments. And I got my phone. If I need to go in the back, I'm gonna click on the phone and see if we can make it work. We'll see. I think I can do it. So let me get it up here. My channel. Here we are. Okay, I'm gonna. How do I need to mute. Oh. Hi there. Hey, John. Well, John got here. Good. I just set up without you. Come on. We're on. We just started. Come over here, and we'll see if we can make this work. I really just go. Yeah, right there. I can't tell left from right when I'm looking in this camera. Let's see. Yeah, I think we can do this. It ain't bad, is it? And we can see the comments. So we're live and everything. And I've got my camera here, so if we need you on the back, actually I won't need to use this particular, except that we can do both and you can talk here. Anyway, we got a few people here. Redfish Bluefish is here. He's a real interesting guy. He has a plant culture lab in his home.
Was he on one of the forums a couple of years ago?
I don't think so.
Long drawn out affair, a couple of years.
I have no idea. Ask him. Redfish Bluefish, were you on a forum a couple of years ago?
And went into this as a full-time avocation of tissue culture and plants?
That's what he's doing. What forum was it? Do you remember?
No, I don't.
So
there was a thread about buying other tissue cultured plants, and they came in infected and having to use heavy duty antibiotics to sterilize them.
Huh. Well, we're gonna find out. Sounds like. Let's see who else is here. Well, I think maybe we caught him off guard. Where'd he go? Way up here. Saying hello to everybody. Chewy is involved with T streams. Are you I thought you were modding on here, Chewy. I'm gonna do it. Cody's very well, there's Punchy. Hi. It's PB pads. You wouldn't know about this.
No.
Who said John? Chevy Fish said hi, John. Sam Dam said hi, John. Just sit down here a little bit. Chiclets. Chevy Fish. Cody's son. Hillbilly Nomad. I got some.
Free ground?
Yeah, oh, yeah. Oh, got some fine gravel from Local Creek a few years ago. Set up the aquarium, and after a week, all was good. My little girl asked why we had slugs. Come to find out we had 5 leeches. Well, there you go. And they probably came in as other eggs or essentially microscopic. So it took a while to grow up to the point where you could see them. Fortunately, you can see them, so you can get them out. Leeches are interesting. They just have a way of attaching themselves to fish, and that's not very pleasant. Redfish Bluefish says, no, that must have been somebody else. I built this tissue culture lab about a year ago.
How actively is he doing it?
Ask him.
Redfish, bluefish, how actively are you doing tissue culturing now on plants?
He's been showing his system off. I think this coming Friday, he's going to try to do a live demo. I have a video that's coming online shortly. I started loading it about 2 hours ago. It's Billy said we left them in the aquarium and had just a leech tank. Well, that's interesting. You put your hand in it.
Have to feed them occasionally.
Really, that's funny. They are interesting critters. Got to admit, reminds me of the ant universe. There's a fellow in Canada who has populations of different kinds of ants as well as other bugs and animals. It's just absolutely fascinating.
Isn't there some historical significance of the red stripes and the barber pole and leeches?
Oh, you bet. You bet. The red on the barber pole represents blood.
Bloodletting leeches.
Bloodletting from leeches. That's absolutely right. So when you get a haircut, and I understand we have as a matter of fact, we have a barber on with us right now who is cutting hair. Check my cat live streamer.
Here we go. Ludwig
You're
Repelli.
back.
It's used. So
It's used.
yeah, it's been used. It's all dirty inside.
Oh,
The
dear.
styles, the things have been within this like half-empty.
Oh my. Okay.
So I just like to.
Father Fish has been momentarily distracted.
All right. I can do that. We did that on a card or cash. You gave me cash. I thought you did. You want it used? You want to
Now,
buy it?
leeches will swell
We'll do
up
it for
considerably
15.
when they feed.
Okay. All right.
Go buy a real
Okay.
thing.
Thank you. Oh, I don't even do that. Down the wormhole. Hi, down the wormhole. Let's see. They're great, especially have a child watching them. He's talking about his leeches. Interested in feeding them. What'd you feed them? See how many people we've got. 25.
The bird seems pretty happy rather than stressed.
He chatters all day long. Sam Dan wants to know what you do, John.
Well, John does a few things. I'm into plants, and I raise fig plants, grow figs. That's one distraction in life. I've done aquariums and planted tanks. Presently don't have any tanks set up, but that's probably going to change. Fairly avid reader. And I like fish.
John's on our board of directors for the Venice Aquarium Society. I think I had mentioned that that Jay Funk is going to be our speaker this month at our February meeting. And we're going to try to do a live stream of the meeting, of his presentation, at least, at the club meeting. If we can set this up right, we should be able to have some interplay between the people on chat and the people who are attending the meeting.
Last month's meeting was very informative.
We had, oh, well, yeah, we had misinformation there. In fact, I did a video of that. That was with Andres Ryan, a bioaquatic. The gist of what I posted was his conversation on pH and maintaining various levels of pH.
Maintaining the carbonate level.
Yeah, he knows things nobody else knows. I'm utterly
And
convinced.
he knows them well.
And he does indeed. The birds sound stressed. Alice, the bird is chatty.
Like
This
some
is-
people
Yeah,
sometimes.
this is the least stressed bird I think I've ever had. It's a Quaker parrot, which normally is very noisy and kind of brassy. This one is really a very sweet bird, but chatty. It goes on all day long, just like this. If it's too distracting, we may need to move him. But I assure you, the only stress is he's got nobody paying attention to him. And that can be stressful for a bird, I expect. You will also hear our bare-eyed cockatoo. They'll be saying hello to everybody who comes in. Let's see. Jay. Daniken, hi Daniken. How are you? I'm amazed at how many people right now are hitting the 1,000 threshold in this group. I think this wing of the fish fam has really been enormously supportive, certainly has of me and a number of others among us to get to that 1,000 mark. There are probably half a dozen just in our group who have hit it in the past week to 2 weeks. So that's pretty exciting stuff. Remains to be seen where we go from here, but at least we're now in the club. I filled out my paperwork, not heard back yet. We'll see how that goes. We chat with these people a little bit. What's up? What you thinking about? What are you looking at?
Oh, we're just.
Oh, all right. Well,
I
there's
think he
lots.
just booted off something.
I did it again, didn't I? Where'd that go?
I don't know.
There it is.
Was that the camera?
Yeah, I'm gonna put this in a lockbox. What in the world? I don't know if we're.
So we don't know if we lost our video or not,
Let's see.
or our audio.
Yeah, really. Well,
There we go.
are we there? We're still there, but we have lost our main. So, boy, that's a terrible picture, isn't it?
Minor technical problems here.
Let me see if I can get us back. There it is.
Thanks.
All right, now let's see if we're. Yeah, I think we're where we need to be. See if it comes back. There it is. Oh, wait, that is an absolutely horrid picture, and I don't know why. Let's put that over there, so don't mess with it again.
You need to bring the chat up on the top screen so you can see it. There you go.
I don't know.
Ask if they can see us.
Oh, you know what? It's not on. Are we live?
Stop pushing buttons.
Yeah, really. Somebody say that.
Yes.
Probably, yeah. Damn, touched the button. Right. Apple's now got a tech. They have a way of doing that. Are we live? Can you see us? We hear you. Good. So I assume that also means you can see us. Hold on, 3 fingers. 3 fingers. Oh dear. I guess we're there. Are we there? There's nothing happening there. That may be my camera though. Look at that. Honest to God. We're being very glitchy today. I'll expect what's going on. Well, there's movement, so I'm gonna assume, I'm gonna leave it alone. Glory. Right.
Yes, you are live.
Good. I did a video earlier. It should be up momentarily. It takes 2 hours for these things to load. About what to say to a 9-year-old who wants to raise guppies.
I say go for it.
Realizing, of course, that any 9-year-old who wants to raise guppies is lying about their age. They're actually 49. So I'm not in trouble with the COLA code here on YouTube. I'm actually talking to 49-year-olds. It's a fun video. I think you'll enjoy it. Give me some feedback on it, please. The shrimp scene says, glad to see somebody familiar people. Been sick for the past 2 months. Oh my word, that's terrible.
How are the shrimp doing?
Hillbilly saying his budgies hear my birds and they're talking to each other. Precious Tranquility says Ashley and I are watching. Precious, I mentioned you in the video that's coming up. Gave you a shout out for your absolutely incredible goldfish. If anybody has not been yet to Precious Tranquility's channel and looked at her goldfish, you will find the most astounding goldfish there that exist anywhere in the world. I mean, they are absolutely magnificent. So nice to see you.
Father Fish even talked to me about them.
Oh, it did?
Yeah, this afternoon.
Oh, that's right, it did, yeah. Anyway, a Precious Tranquility is with her friend Ashley, I guess. You can, I'm not going to say anymore. You can say what you want to say about it. But they're having a good time watching us. Yannick says, good morning. We have a lot of friendliness here. Not much in the way of conversation. So, shrimp scene. Let's take a look at your. God, do I want to mess with this again? Jeez. All right, let's do it.
What kind of shrimp are you keeping?
We're going to go look at his channel. First shrimp tank. She's got a brand new channel. Looks like. We're looking at your first shrimp tank here. There it is. Well, you got a lot of plants. That's nice. And one of the things you've done in structuring this is you've got things at all levels, and that's real important for shrimp because they don't swim; they climb. So they need to be able to go up. So by having the whole top to bottom of the tank covered with plants, it allows them to move through the entire tank. That's really a very, very nice tank for shrimp.
And they're also not stressed because they have places to hide all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. It keeps neocaridina.
What colors of neocaridina are you keeping?
Chewy saying I used to have an aviary. Pet birds be allowed only when in their cage to eat. We don't have birds flying loose here because we have doors open routinely. So it's hard to control that. Alice is talking about needing a cage when she's gone. She doesn't think she could fit an aviary. I guess I showed pictures of my aviary. Danican, is that your? Oh, that's your channel. Sandy is asking Precious's opinion on something. What I miss? Oh. What did I miss? Uploaded a video last night with some big goldfish. I go, oh, good. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. Shrimp saying add some of all of the colors. Green jades seem to struggle the most. Green's a tough one. Black and the orange tend to do best. Cherries do well. What is this, Julie? Talking about, a wider cage, yeah. We're getting a little goldfish action here. Precious was saying that she's discovered a goldfish farm near her called Living Waters that has very high quality goldfish. Breeding them, it's a farm.
And where would that be?
It's in Texas. Yeah. So I'm going to try to get some things shipped over to here. They do wholesale.
Well, you might know the difference. What's the difference between Canada and Florida?
Difference between Canada and Florida.
Mm-hmm.
It's a trick question.
I think so.
Must be. What's the trick? Tell me what the difference is, John, between Canada and Florida.
Florida tends to be warmer than Canada and a little bit wetter.
Oh, Chewy's asking this. That's the difference, he says. Whatever that refers to. Of course, the Aquarium books I've read over the years in the hobby. Now, there's an interesting question.
That's a good question.
That's a really good question.
I think Linda Wallstout's book on plants.
That's the Bible.
Is a good Bible.
That's the Bible.
It still holds its own.
Yeah. Fish-wise, I've been locked in for years.
Benches,
Yeah, Benches and Aquarium Atlas It's a 5-volume series, and it's an attempt to do everything, to publish details on every single fish in the world, and they update it, so it's as close as anybody gets. I keep the photo index, which is the pictures in volumes 1 through 5, as a research tool, so I can look in here and say I'm looking right now at bettas that absolutely, and that's just one page. There are page after page after page of all species of bettas, like so and so forth, which would include licorice. I like that real well.
Branch also has a hardbound book on freshwater fish diseases that gives treatment methodologies. That's a good book also.
I still have a copy of Innis on my desk, probably more for emotional reason than anything else. Let me see if I can pick it up here real quick. Where'd it go? It's down the bottom of the pile. Wouldn't you know?
Murphy's Law.
Something hit the floor. Ah, this is my prize. This book was given to me in 1959 by my grandmother when I graduated from high school. It's the 15th or 14th edition of a book that was published first in 1934 by William Innis, who established he taught at the University of Pennsylvania, I think. He established the very first public aquarium in the United States in Philadelphia in 1940. It lasted 2 years until the war came and
wiped it out.
All the men, all the people who knew anything about keeping fish went into the war effort, and there was nobody to keep it going. So it closed up, never reopened. But Innis.
Tell a little bit about the early importation of tropical fish from South America and the involvement of the Germans.
Oh, that was interesting, wasn't it? Yeah. They were initially shipped. They were shipped. They were not flown
by boats.
By boats. That's right. And they would ship them in all kinds of containers. The one container I remember, I mentioned this recently, was milk cans. The big, like whatever
5 gallon
size, they're bigger
gallon.
than that. They're like 20-gallon, big 20-gallon milk cans. They would put them on a flatbed, a train flatbed in Florida, and ship them north. And it would take 2, 3 days, 4 days, a week to get to New York City or Newark or DC or wherever
Philadelphia.
they were going, Philadelphia.
Where the people were.
Yeah. And that's how they shipped. It was not until about 1953, 54 that Merle Cohen in Baltimore, who was the owner of Aquarium Products, figured out a way to use plastic bags to ship fish. And that completely changed the industry. But the fish, you talk a little bit about that. You know more about the South American linkage than I do, John.
Well, probably the Amazon was known for a lot of tetras, cardinal tetras, tremendous diversity, a lot of catfish. The natives, and this is still true to this day, go out and collect fish. Sometimes it literally may be all day to get 5 fish, and then they go into town to one of the wholesalers, and the wholesalers say, we'll buy them, or they're too small, we don't want them. And this is literally true. They're not paid too much. It used to be 1/10 of a cent per cardinal tetra. And that was, I think, back in the 70s that they were paid.
Yeah,
Very,
Yeah.
very, very little.
1,000 for a buck.
And the seine nets that they have up might be 500 or 1,000 feet long. And they're left up for several days, and then they go in and get the fish. It's not taken very lightly by the natives if you disturb the nets. They have been known to go on a boat and kill somebody on the boat for disturbing their property or damaging it. So it's their country, and you respect them. They're very nice people. They're friendly. They're really great people. Just don't disrespect their property. Brazil has put in export limitations, regulations, restrictions on a lot of the catfish. Some are still coming out of some other countries now, but nowhere near the quantities it used to.
Yeah, I remember some years ago visiting a wholesaler who had a tank full of 12 to 16-inch blue-eyed plecostomus. And I've got a picture of myself holding one in each hand like this. I need to find that picture. They're unavailable now. If you get them, they're hundreds.
To Everglades Exotic Nurseries one time in the early 1990s and met Mr. Greenberg, and he was very cordial, very informative, and asked. Well, Lou's horsing around seeing if we can get a feedback up. Looks like we have.
I don't know if we're there or not.
Oh, you're back.
Maybe. So Lumpy Dogs, ultra low tech dirt at 10 gallon is doing great. That's terrific. Little tanks are so much fun.
They're fun. They really
Where'd
are.
it go? Am I back? Am I back? Is the question.
Well, we went away. No, it wasn't a Mother Nature call.
Yeah, really. It was more a electronics call.
It was a technical problem,
We're back.
an unknown technical
Yeah.
problem that spontaneously disconnected.
So where videos go, I hope it's better than it was. It's been pretty crappy. Hi, how are you?
Good.
There's nobody there. I think
So that's recorded.
no,
No?
I don't know.
Well, you're not moving and the picture's moving.
Right. Well, no, it's
Delayed?
it's a delay. Yeah.
Okay.
Daddy can, man, meatball and potato skins don't get any better. Talking about food now. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm ready for that. God.
We're having a sushi
Oh,
bar
sushi
tonight.
bar.
It's a good idea.
A sushi bar. That sounds like fun. No steaks. I did a steak yesterday. Did a porterhouse, a 3-pound porterhouse. It was magnificent.
So how thick is a 3-pound porterhouse?
About 4 inches.
About that
Almost.
thick? Yeah.
But that's 4, probably 3.
Yeah.
Fried chicken and Joe Joss. Anakin's killing. Oy vey. This has been kind of crazy. We've been knocked offline here a few times.
Repeatedly.
Yeah, Precious is into stories. Wants to know if you have a funny story. You probably do. Tell us a funny story.
I have to think of one.
Oh dear. What time is it? 2:30. We're only halfway through. And I'm
Only
pressed.
3 pounds, then Ginger asked.
Let's see. Yeah, it was 3 pounds. It was not big. It was like that. It was not a real big steak. We bone in, and probably was 10 inches across at the longest point. I was surprised how small it was, actually, for how good it was. Lumpy dog, about less than $5.65 into the 10-gallon tank. Bunch of Bacopa. Nice. Precious wants a funny story. Let's see. Danny Can. Sales team here at Afro to work. Good.
I'll tell you a funny
Danny
story.
Can sells cars.
It's sort of closer to sad than funny. The very first tropical fish I had, I was about 6 or 7 years old. We bought a 20-gallon high tank. There's a department store that used to be in downtown Columbus, Ohio called Lazarus. And on the 6th floor, they had an aquarium department. And twice a year, they'd bring fish in from Florida, sell them cheap. You thought you're getting a great deal. The problem was that the survival rates were almost nil.
Right.
So we bought $15, $20 worth of fish, the tank, the whole thing, set it up. The next morning, they were all dead. Nobody bothered to tell us we had to dechlorinate the water.
Oh, dear.
So we lost all the fish. Eventually, you figured out that the fish that got shipped in and no quarantine and stressed were not a good investment.
It used to be that way with saltwater fish.
Yes.
I remember back in the 50s, there were no saltwater fish that lasted more than a month. And typically it was days. It was just a real struggle to try to get that aspect of the hobby off the ground. My grandmother told me a story about the first time she ever saw an angelfish. She had just come over from Berlin, landed in New York on her way down to Baltimore. She was 13 years old and went into a local fish store, and they had an angel in there that was $1,000 in 1913.
Wow.
one of the first angels that had ever
So that
come
fish would
into
have
the
would
hobby.
have come in from Peru.
Yeah.
That's a long trip from Peru up to New York City.
And it's funny because it's such a common fish today, and back then, when nobody had ever seen one, it was the rarest of the rare.
And the other thing that would make it especially challenging is the pH in the Amazon is about 4.5, so it's very acidic. And if they didn't realize that, they put it in regular water and don't acclimate it, it's dead.
Right. Zen Ginger, if I've got gravel in my tanks already, would you suggest still capping with sand? Absolutely, for the long-term health of the tank. Or will that just trap things with gravel below it? The sand will sit down between the gravel, and it works brilliantly. Actually, it's a very effective way to do a deep sand bed. So yeah, I would put a couple of inches of sand on top of the gravel, let it sift down. It'll work extremely well. And the detritus that's already in there will become aerobic, break down, and provide nutrition for your plants, in addition to which it'll act as a filtration agent, filtration engine for the entire system. So, yeah, by all means, cap gravel with sand. It's really a very smart and a very effective thing to do.
Father Fish, what time you going live?
I'm live right now.
Oh,
This
you
is-
are?
Yeah, this is my doctor just walked in. Where'd he go?
Oh, geez, I hope hey, everybody. I hope my daughter's watching Zoe because we're tuned in. So no better place to come in Venice than Father Fish's and see if he's got some great new inventory. That's what I'm doing. What a fine guy. He's super knowledgeable. So this is the place to come to get great tropical fish and a great experience.
So you heard it from the horse's mouth.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'll look around, Father.
Alrighty. He has about a 7-8-year-old daughter who he brings in every weekend, and they have a grand time.
Cichlid
If we back up,
123 asked about capping the packaged.
oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the packaged soils, all of the packaged soils, the dirty little secret is that they all need to be capped. And the reason is they all have nutrition in them. And the critical component, or the critical rule, I should say, of a deep substrate is to keep the nutrition in the substrate and not in the water column. And the way you do that is you cap the substrate. You put 2 inches of sand on top of that substrate that keeps the separation, so that even as nutrition is working its way up, the plant roots are able to get it, but it's not coming into the water column. That's why people have trouble with algae once they put these very high quality soils in their tank, because all of a sudden
It's too
they
rich.
get these. Yeah, you get
bloom. You get a bloom.
the water column contains the same mineralization as the substrate. So there's, and you want the opposite of that. You want the mineralization to precipitate into the substrate, go through the sand, down into the richer levels. So yeah, cap your dirt with sand if you want to control
And
algae
and a
blooms.
good couple inches.
2 inches is kind of minimum. Let's see, let me back up here a little. I keep going up to Precious Tranquilities. Funny stories. Let's see. I need to get past that.
Oh, I'll tell you a funny story. In 2000, I was going up to Columbus, Ohio for Christmas, and I had a nephew that was into tropical fish. And I'd been in Miami, and I bought a pair of discus, and I was a partner in a business that was breeding albino pearl scale angelfish. And I had a pair of the albino pearl scale angelfish. So I had 2 styrofoam shipping boxes that are about 24 by 24 by 12 inches high. And I had them as carry-on baggage for an airline. This was before 9/11. Well, they weren't sure that they could take them because they couldn't ensure what was the liquid in there and that it wasn't a hazardous material. And I said, but the fish are swimming in it. They're alive. It can't be hazardous. Well, all right. So you're going to have to, so they were in a plastic bag in the styrofoam box. So they asked me to pull the bag out. They x-rayed the bag, the box, said, okay, you can take it on the plane. So I got it on the plane, and the stewardess said, I don't think you can have these. We don't have a place to put them. They won't fit in the overhead bin. And I said, yes, actually, there is a place that you can put them. You can put them in the captain's locker. And she said, I don't know about that. I said, why don't you ask him? So she put the 2 boxes in the captain's locker and didn't ask him.
How funny.
And I carried the boxes when I got to my destination, came to my nephew. Now today, I think you're limited to about 1.5 ounces or 2 ounces of liquid. So
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
There's no way you'd ever be able to do that again.
Can't do it, right? Let's see, Cichlid 23, to mix fluorite with Eco-Complete, would you still cap it with pool filter sand? Yeah, if it's mixed, absolutely. If you're capping Eco-Complete with fluorite, you can maybe get away with it, but fluorite's pretty permeable. It's not particularly dense. Through it. Part of the importance of the sand, as opposed to gravel, is that it slows down the water flow to a flow determined by the life that's in the substrate, the bacteria and the microscopic animals whose cilia is making that water flow, if that makes any sense. So yeah, I would tend to want to cap. You mentioned pool filter sand. I'm on kind of a crusade to get people to find other kinds of sand, and I'm doing it myself. Because pool filter sand, well, it's nice and all, lacks the kind of color and structure that other wild sands have. So don't feel bad about collecting sand wherever you go, whether it's the beach or the desert or a dry wash.
What do you think about Black Beauty, the blasting sand?
Blasting sand is made from anthracite.
Correct. Anthracite coal.
Which is a coal. It's very
hard.
Very dense. It has no powder, doesn't break up. It's not porous. It's actually perfect. It's a crystalline structure, which means that it's going to hold a lot of bacteria on its surfaces. So yeah, I like it. The only problem with the black sand is that fish that turn dark to avoid predation tend to hide on the bottom, and you don't see them. They disappear.
And it looks really nice in a planted tank because you have a black bottom and the green plants. A nice contrast.
Yeah, I like it. Precious says you can carry on bags of fish. The ounce limit doesn't count. Yeah,
very good.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to fight with.
I think you're going to have to educate the people at the airport about this.
Routinely. Having bird conversations here.
Hey Lou.
Yes.
Excuse me. You want? I think you got 1 peacock bass in there.
Just one left?
I think it's just 1.
Really?
Yeah. So I was gonna see if I can grab it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You want me to grab it?
Okay. Sure. Good to see ya.
Good, man.
Take care.
Thanks for putting on the show.
Oh, that's fun. Thank you.
One of the challenges with airlines on air freight especially coming in from other countries, is the boxes that get bottom loaded onto the metal of the aircraft. The boxes get a lot colder, and the mortality rates can be a lot higher on shipping, and you have no control over it.
Yeah, the heat packs are only so effective. Then once the fly to Hawaii and then bring stuff back, yeah, so long as they're not shutting down collecting, there are a lot of problems collecting in Hawaii these days.
I don't think there are many fish coming in from China right now.
Really? Oh, you mean because, yeah, I guess. Which is interesting because China set themselves up to become one of the largest
Fish breeder.
exporter of tropical fish
Yep.
in the world, immediately followed by Poland and Czechoslovakia that did the same thing. And they're now farming.
Czechoslovakia was before
China, was it?
because the people in Czechoslovakia under Soviet rule were allowed to keep the money from a tropical fish breeding hobby. So they set up these little, basically closets
Yeah, I read about
that were hyper efficient,
Yeah.
with this completely stacked full of small tanks, and masterful breeders brought in a lot of the German technology.
Interesting.
Yeah, very. And you go back and you look at some of the pictures. It's like a 6x8 room that's just full of tanks.
Zen Ginger says, "What about washed clay sand?" Yeah, it works fine. Washing is the issue because it does contain clay, a lot of very fine matter that takes extra effort to get clean. If you set your tank up dry and you want to use clay sand, which is cheaper and it's good quality stuff, the fineness is a problem because it gets in the water column. But if you'll set it up dry, pour the sand on top of the dirt and the enriched substrate, and then put water in without disturbing it, that works perfectly well.
What do you think about putting sheets of newspaper down first and then putting the water down?
That's the second time that's come up in a week or two. Was it you who raised? Somebody raised that issue about a week ago. My grandmother used to do that, and I never really understood it, never pursued it. But I know it's a very old idea.
I do suggest you read the newspaper first, though.
Oh, well, fish can't read it, so I don't know what the point is. Let's see where we're at here. Cody says, pushing the thumbs up. The bird conversations. I really need to do more
I
with
mentioned
birds.
Calgary was a challenge because you'd have connecting flights coming in from South America.
Oh, my word, yeah.
Well, South America tends sometimes to be pretty undependable. They fly when they want to.
Yeah, they were typically going to Miami. See who's on the phone here. Father Fish. Clownfish. Freshwater or saltwater? Freshwater clowns. I got some, I do. I've got 16 inches and 32 inches. I don't think I have. Right. You're looking for something 3 to 4 inches, I'm sure. I don't think I do right now. I'll be getting some in first of the week, though. I'll have them this week. Puffer. I got some nice puffers. Larger. Yeah, I've got fugu. I got a couple of fugu puffers that are like 4 inches.
Sushi time.
They'll love them. Yeah, they will. Yeah, they will. They're $50. They're a little pricey. About 20. Yeah, uh-huh. Yeah, you ought to come look at them. They're real nice. I tell you what, I've got pea puffers, which are much smaller, and they would work just fine. They're $10. Should be back. Frozen.
You got a fish
I
soon.
think we're back.
All right.
Got him.
Okay. 2675.
We freeze in Florida just like everybody else. It's a little bit different here in some regards because our humidity is higher. So once it gets cold, it's kind of more of a biting cold. In this area, it is not common at all to have a freeze. In 1981, 1982, there were back-to-back freezes, and that's really been the last significant freeze that we've
Okay,
had.
great. Oh, glory. Been a month since I put dirt under layer. Same set balance.
Did he say $10 for pea puffers?
I did.
Adjusting rain. Scroll down. Adjusting reinforcement. Go down about 4 more. Now back up. You move fast. Back up. Adjust Chevy Limited. Chewy Limited. Adjusting
Chewy.
reinforced fish is a nightmare in water like the Rift Valley.
Well, yeah. You got to be able to pull the carbonates out of the water to do it.
So you're going to have to use some RO water in your makeup water to bring the carbonate hardness down. That was part of Andre's discussion.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so you got rainforest water up in Canada. That's interesting.
So they have very soft water in some areas of Canada, with
Oh.
almost zero TDS.
Huh. Madfish Eagle High loves pea puffers. Madfish, we need to get together. We've been talking about doing a show, and we haven't done it. We'll need to do that maybe this week. Implementing our #1 fish keeping rule: be patient. Amen.
That's
sister.
the same rule that exists in a lot of things in life.
Amen, sister. Let's see now. What is this comment? A bit a month since. Sister Lockmo.
So the fish are happy, they're spawning.
Spawning. What fish are spawning? What fish have you got? Yeah, the thing that's so exciting about the deep sand bed is that it creates a natural environment. And the natural environment is superior in every single respect to a synthetic environment. There just really is no comparison.
Or think about the way that the pet stores commonly set up a planted tank. You take sterile gravel and you stick the roots into the sterile gravel and you put water in it and some fish, and somehow the plants are supposed to just do great. And it doesn't happen that way.
You know, so they all die.
And then they sell you more plants.
Or whatever. See how we do it here.
Somebody just gave me a dragon puffer and it told me he eats goldfish.
A dragon puff.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's not been eating any of the goldfish.
Aqua balls. I don't know how to get. I don't know what a dragon puffer is. It took 3 days he hadn't eaten a goldfish. Oh well. What can I say? Give him, cut a little piece of raw chicken up. Feed it to him. See if he likes that. Put a snail or two in the tank. I like raw chicken. My puppers eat raw chicken. I've got a couple of fugus. We're getting busy here now. If you're getting some good information, thank you, Zan. So what I recommend from Home Depot. I cap that with sand. Any good quality potting soil, preferably without a fertilizer, because you don't need the additional the nitrogen.
You need to look at the label and see if there's an NPK on it, nitrogen, potassium, phosphorus, vice versa. And if the numbers are there, then they've added something to it to increase the fertilizer.
The other thing that I like is black cow. In fact, I do a mix of high quality potting soil, black cow, which is a manure in effect.
Cow manure.
Yeah, and peat moss, powdered chopped fine peat moss.
The Canadian sphagnum peat moss.
Exactly. I mix my elements in with that now. I'm going to be starting this week. I'm going to be selling the supplements for that mix, and it'll have a recipe that'll explain exactly how to use it. But I'll be on Get Gills. I'm going to sell for $20 a bag of supplements that will be adequate to do 100 gallons. So you can divvy it up in between your tanks and mix it in with the soils.
Hello.
Hi there.
Clowns.
Clouds. All right, let me go look. You want to take over?
Puffers.
Sure. I don't know how good it'll be, but I'll give it a shot.
Chevy's talking about the Germans.
So scroll down here is with the mouse.
Yeah, scroll with the mouse.
Okay.
You can sit over here if you want to. Let me see what I can do here.
All right, Father Fish is taking a momentary break, so I'm going to continue. Chewy Limited mentioned that the Germans are very important as far as history goes in the half-black pastel guppies. It's developed in Germany, along with several other strains of livebearers. I think the Germans are probably some of the best aquarists in the world. They're technically very competent, expend a tremendous amount of money and effort, and really want to do things the absolute best way possible. They were also the first really to open up South America as far as bringing tropical fish out. And much of the technology from the Germans, as I mentioned earlier, carried over into Czechoslovakia as far as the fish breeding efforts. So does Zen Ginger raise ginger plants also? Or is it just part of the Zen? Let's see here. Puffers, bloodworms, snails. I was not aware that the Russians were excellent fish keepers, but it kind of makes sense. Ah, you're a redheaded, so you're a ginger. Well, I'm a towhead. So a little background on myself. I started keeping fish when I was about 7 or 8, somewhere around there. That would have been early 1960s. In that era, the aquariums, most of them had slate bottoms, and the sides had stainless steel bars. There was a tar asphalt that was put in, and the glass was put in after first. And then when you filled the tank up, the asphalt would kind of ooze out. You had to scrape it off. They worked. It's what they had. The only problem was they took a set and the asphalt would harden. So when you tore a tank down and you moved it, they invariably leaked. The first all glass aquariums with silicone edges came out late 1960s. There was a company called Metaframe that built them, and Mattel Toys bought out Metaframe, and they bought out a power back filter company called Dynaflow. It's one of the earliest economical, decent back filters. And they pretty much ran both products down in the ground. The Metaframe aquariums leaked, got a bad reputation. Eventually, Mattel either closed or sold that division down. And about 10 years ago, I was at a luncheon and met a man that had been the comptroller for Mattel during that era. And I asked him what the problem was. And he said they wouldn't spend enough money to put thick enough glass in the tanks, and they flexed too much. And I guess their own cheapness drove them out of the market. Yes, the Dynaflows were pretty nifty filters. I remember there was a pump company called, I want to say Silent Giant, and it was a white housing that was about this big, basically a little vibrator pump with a bunch of beads as a sound deadener. And this was, I don't know, maybe 1970 era, and they were $20. Fair amount of money then. Lifetime warranty, bought one. Needed a diaphragm or something about 4 years later, and I went to get a diaphragm, and the company had gone belly up. I guess that was one of the first lessons that a lifetime warranty meant either the first of your lifetime or their lifetime. Two gingers mad at you is not a good idea. I will concur with that. Is my audio coming through? Father Fish is in the back right now grabbing a couple fish. Thank you. So how about a little background from a few of you as far as your planted tanks and what size what kind of plants you're keeping. I'll tell you a little bit. I'll fill some time in with a planted tank that I set up late 1990s. I had a 55-gallon, had 120 planted tank with CO2 and a bunch of high output fluorescent lighting, and a ton of Amazon swords in it that were putting runners out. I had a family friend when I was a child that was a cardiologist, and he had a built-in 20-gallon tank full of cardinals, and I was always impressed with the tank, so I decided I'd set something up similar. I had a friend that was doing tropical fish, and we were in Miami at a wholesaler, and I bought a full box of cardinal tetras, which is, I think it was 400 cardinal tetras. Set the tank up, was a deep sand bed. I'd been on a property up in Ohio that had been farmed. Well, it was actually trees for 40 years, and no pesticides, and they were doing road construction, and they torn the trees down. So I got a couple of 5-gallon pails of dirt, some laterite, which was a clay product that had a high iron content in it, and peat moss, sphagnum peat moss, and I made about a 3 or 4 inch substrate, and then capped it with 2.5 inches of black beauty. Put the cardinal tetras in, planted the Amazon swords. I had a fluorescent shop light, 240-watt fluorescent bulbs that I used as the light, and
Thank you.
a back filter, no air stone, and the tank just absolutely took off. My father became ill, and I had to leave town, and I came back, and the snail had gotten in the impeller of the back filter and stopped the filter, so there was no filtration. I had 0 fish losses. The Amazon swords were growing out of the top of the 55-gallon tank, and you could look up in the bottom of the tank, and it was totally white from the plant roots. Just an amazing biotope. And if you said, well, you could keep 300 cardinal tetras, a dozen cories with no filtration and no air stone, and it would be stable, and everything would just flourish. 99% of the people will tell you it can't be done. Well, it can be done. I don't recommend it as a beginner, and you need to kind of work into it. But it's amazing once things are in a balance what can be done. I asked what they were doing tank-wise, and what they were keeping.
Oh, good. Ah. Twin brother, yeah. Kind of feels that way sometimes. Uh-oh. That is the ginger. We all got that, I think. I'm not going to try to back up here. Let's continue on. The Florida Collector's Guide. Thank you. That was poorly shot. I really was not. I need to learn more about camera work. I kept shooting the lower part of the page and not the whole page. So that kind of disappointed me. But it's a great product. They pick that up.
This one?
Yeah. It's currently not available. I'm trying to convince the guys to republish. It's a big deal for them, and they're going to put up about $20,000 up front to do it. And then it takes them forever just to get their money back.
And it is copyright, so you can't just
Yeah,
run
I can't
copies
run
off.
copies of it, yeah. And I wouldn't do that anyway, because they're real worthy guys. But I'm encouraging them. My latest, I lately heard that they're probably going to redo it. So I'll make sure when they do that I get a lot of copies. I sell it at cost. Costs $50 a piece for this. But boy, is it worth it. So what did you say about that?
$15 tanks. Java Moss, Waterspike, Crips, Scarlet Temple, Bacopa.
And Scarlet Temple and Bacopa. Bacopa is a little tough. You should not have trouble with Scarlet Temple, though. The leaves will deteriorate. It's like any lily. Eventually, the leaves will deteriorate, but they should be creating more leaves constantly. So that's pretty normal. Oh, I don't know what in the world my monitor is doing.
It's jumping.
It certainly is. All right, where's the conversation?
We were talking about people's tanks.
I think we're getting on to what time is it? 3:15. We've run over a bit. Let's see if there's anything else here. Right. What that's all about.
Somebody asked about your plant list when you were going to have it up.
Oh, there it is. Plant list on Get Kills. This week I get everything up on Get Kills. So I haven't figured out quite how I'm going to do the plant list yet because it's so large, but somehow I'll get it up. I'll have everything up by midweek. I will have the dirt up tomorrow. So we're going to just start pushing on this and see if we can't get it going. I don't even know what that's all about. I get too curious sometimes about what you guys are talking about. And
You pick up part of it, it's out of context.
I need not to be. Oh, Scarlet Temple grows slowly. That's really funny. It's one of the plants that explodes for me. It just absolutely takes over any tank I put it in.
I think there are a lot of factors that come into play on the success of a plant. Water temperature, pH, hardness of the water, the lighting conditions, and some. I always say that the challenge is not trying to adapt the plant or the animal to our environment. It's adapting our environment to what that animal or plant needs, and that's the challenge.
All right.
52 degrees.
Where are you, Cody's son? All right, we're going to call it. We're running over. Precious is going to be battling snowflakes in her upcoming revolution. I'm fired up about that revolution. I want in. Social justice warriors. You got it. Nice to be with you guys. If I do it, here's a question. God,
It's nice to meet everybody.
I think so. Is there a proper cycling for the soil to be safe for the fish? So long as you're capping it, it's ready day one. You can put fish in day one. Just go slow on feeding because you can create an ammonia problem. Spike in the ammonia will stress the fish out. But you can put fish in Once you get the substrate down, get the water in, put your plants in. You can put fish in it right away,
And you're going to need a little dechlorinator.
depending on what your water's,
Yeah.
where your water's
If
coming from.
you're using
Yeah.
chlorinated or chloramine tap
Yeah.
water, you'll need to dechlorinate.
Yeah, I'm also going to be selling sodium thiosulfate crystals, which are a whole lot more effective, much more powerful, and not toxic,
And more cost effective.
and a lot cheaper. Yeah. So that'll also be on the Kit Gills website. So thank you all for plugging in. This has been a little harrowing. I want to thank John for driving all the way down from Sarasota to join us. I got to take him out to dinner now, but that'll be fun. We need to figure out some neat place.
It
to
was
go.
nice sharing my adventures with you. Thank you for everybody's contribution.
Take care.
Stress Coat's a good product.
Love you all. Bye bye.
Bye. Are you disconnected?
And